Spidey strikes a pose, first in an issue, then a statue reissue. Here's your look at McFarlane Toys, Spider-Man issue 301, Spider-Man statue. Supposedly, Franz Cross hired Silver Sable to test a security system, but Cross turns out to have a secret past. Spider-Man smells a rat. This 1/6 scale figure includes a diorama backdrop and comic book. Leaping from the page now can be put on your shelf. Just before, of course, we get a closer look at McFarlane Toys issue 301 Spider-Man diorama statue. Let's take the tape measure and see how tall it actually stands. There's a little bit of assembly that's required for the statue. We'll talk more about that in a moment. First, though, the Spider-Man statue, if you include the webbing, is going to be about 10 inches in height, or roughly about 24.5 centimeters tall. To give you some idea just how big the statue is, I'm going to bring in one of the McFarlane dragons. I'm also going to bring in a DC Multiverse figure. Never, I'm sure, would any of these collectibles cross paths on the same shelf, but at least it gives you a little bit of an idea of just what it looks like next to a standard-sized DC Multiverse figure, just happens to be Nightfall Batman, and McFarlane Toys Dragon. Of the things that come included with the Spidey statue, first it includes a trading card. Issue 301 gets advertised a whole lot here, not only with the trading card, but also as well the source material for what the statue's based from. Unfortunately, though, I wish the same could be said for the comic. The card itself looks good, though. On the back as well, it does say it's inspired by Amazing Spider-Man issue 301. And again, it has that same read-up I read at the beginning of this review. I'm going to hold on to this. I do kind of wish that there was a little standee, something that you could have just displayed along with the Spider-Man statue. Not necessarily, I would say, break up the mold at all by including a peg where a stand would attach that way. But just a standalone stand would have been perfect. That would have been then displayed along with the statue. Anyways, let's just move that off to the side. It also comes included with a comic, and though before you think this is going to be issue number 301, it's not. It is only issue 301 from only cover alone. In fact, if you start to flip through the pages, you'll realize right away that the staples are on the wrong side. That's because everything is going the opposite way. And the reasoning why it's going the opposite way is because it's not including issue 301, it's including issue 302. It's kind of odd, really, that if we get a statue based on this source material, why would they have included then a comic for 302? The only thing I can think of is that issue 301 has a higher value to it, and that people could then very well take the comic and try to sell it online, including saying that this is, for example, the first issue print, when clearly it isn't. Obviously, though, if you look at the issue 302, which is the actual comic that comes included, this one's called Chaos in Kansas. Flipping through quickly the pages here. Again, some great looking artwork, courtesy of the folks, not just the folks of McFarlane Toys, Todd McFarlane himself. I don't think I've ever really read through. I mean, I've gone and tried to pick up some of McFarlane's run of the Spider-Man issues. Most of them actually are still in bag and board. I should really kind of bring those out. Has there ever really been a trade paperback of McFarlane's Spider-Man run? If there isn't, there really needs to be. Some of the also advertisements here on the back, there's Iron Man, there's also X-Men. New Mutants, which happens to be I believe the first appearance of Deadpool. There is this version of Deadpool as a statue, and there's also this, well, somewhat of a similar look of Spider-Man here, issue number 6. I don't know if this is maybe just a precursor of some of the other statues we might get from McFarlane Toys, or it might just be some additional things that they just threw in the back of the comic. Either way, though, like that the comic is included, I wish, though, it was this, well, I wish it was this issue instead. One other thing that also comes included with the statue involves me having to slide it over here for a second. It comes with a backdrop, and the backdrop is really nicely done. It looks like it actually was taken from the pages of that issue. Sometimes, though, when you do get cardboard backdrops like this, it means that the back of it is usually unfinished. You can see there's the top of the building there. Spider-Man basically will be perched on top here. But it was nice to see that actually, if you look at the back of it, it's printed. I mean, it doesn't have printing necessarily to depict any specific scene, but at the very least, it includes something to look at. It's not just the boring brown cardboard. So I like that they included that. I mean, obviously, it's going to now take up a little bit more space inside your shelf as opposed to just having Spider-Man displayed on his own. You can choose for yourself, obviously, whether you want to have the statue with it or if you want to just leave it off altogether. Just, though, to put the statue inside, just to give you guys an idea of what that looks like. And let's go back to the source. So we're going to just to spin this just a little bit to the side. I want to make sure I kind of get this somewhat looking like this. The only thing I will say, though, is also that Spider-Man's head is maybe facing the wrong way. If you look to angle, And the way I've sort of got it imaged, it kind of does look like the head should be turned up just a little bit more. It's a small little thing. Anyways, let's move that off to the side. I did say earlier, though, that a little bit of assembly was required. So Spider-Man essentially is a separate piece. I'm going to remove him from the back here. So when you get him out of the box, you essentially are treated to the display stand first. That does say Amazing Spider-Man down below. You sort of got the rooftop scene with some chimneys sticking out. Nice little touch there. And of course, you also got yourself the post. Now, the post attaches into this hole, as you probably already saw. A nice heavy metal post. It has to really be, by the way that Spider-Man is posed. That just dowels in place, just like that. And then you've got that piece. Then Spider-Man is a separate part, obviously, and there's going to be a hole in the back of his body. So when you're attaching this, attach this first before you do anything else. And make sure, really, it's securely attached. Once it's in there, I don't feel like it's going anywhere. One of my big worries also with this particular Spider-Man pose was just that there was so much more Spider-Man leaning forward this way than there is back this way. I thought that after a while it would start to lean. But being that they are using a metal post, being that it is very securely attached into Spider-Man's back, ouch, that's going to hurt. I don't think it's going to be going anywhere. If anything could be damaged, it could be fractured down below here, but I think the likelihood of that is probably not going to happen. The next thing you want to do as well is take the webbing. Now, the web attaches in two places. So there's a hole right here, and you may not be able to see it, but there's a hole just behind the chimney. So you'll plug in one of them. It doesn't really matter. I suppose probably doing this one would be the best one first. And then you'll take the back section. There's a lot of stretching, unfortunately, that is required here. Now, luckily, the plastic that they're using is more of that gummier variety, so I don't feel like it's going to snap. But just, again, be careful when you're doing this. Then if you look at the back there, we're just going to line everything up. Might get my hand out of the way. It's just going to plug it onto the back of the chimney. And then the last thing that would have already been done, because I already took the time of doing that, Spider-Man's foot is separate from the ring. So there's a hole on Spider-Man's heel, and then there's a peg right here on the ring. So you're going to take those two ideas and you're going to combine them together. There we go. And then once everything is securely attached, you've got yourself a pretty neat looking Spider-Man statue. Structurally, I feel it's pretty stable. Again, there's so much more Spider-Man leaning forward that if this had been done in plastic, obviously this would buckle pretty quickly. But being that there's a metal poster, I feel like it's pretty securely in place. I don't feel like Spider-Man's going to give me any problems over time, even though he does. I mean, unnervingly, he very much leans a lot more forward. Getting, though, a closer look at the statue. It is several statues that McFarlane has done based on issue comic covers. This was the one I wanted to get right away. There was also... Now, I ordered this over on Toys R Us. Toys R Us had a good sale going on, in fact, actually a couple of the statues. I got this one right away. They also had the Venom. I think they also had another Spider-Man statue, but I'm really looking forward to having a look at those down the road. But this was the one I wanted to start with right away. Of course, the more over kind of exaggerated pose that McFarlane would design with his Spider-Man, the large eyes, one of the notable traits also as well. Nicely painted statue. He's got the webbing that comes towards essentially the screen. So again, if we just pull the card, you can see the way that the webbing is kind of angled towards you. The only thing I would have done differently, I mean, obviously they've done away with the idea that the behind the ring is going to be green. They instead wanted to give more a scenic environment behind Spider-Man, so it looked like it could have taken place in the comics. The only thing, though, I would have said, as I was starting to say, is that the webbing I wish was actually gray instead of clear. What they've done is they've used a translucent clear plastic to evoke the idea that he's actually shooting webbing. The webbing looks good, but I would have maybe done it darker, matching that more closer to the source material. Of course, he does have it shooting out the front of his hands, and then he's got the rest of the remaining web kind of coming behind him, all twisted around. Again, very much similar to the card. It looks good. I probably would have done this in a dark gray instead, just so it looks the closest like the comic. The webbing is cleanly done. I'm looking all around the webbing here, and I can't see anything where... Webbing for Spider-Man is always the hardest thing to pull off when it comes to painting, because webbing, after a while, I mean, you know, if you go in there and start to paint webbing, there's always a good likelihood that the webbing in some areas will be a little sloppier, unfinished in some others, and yet it does look like it's pretty cleanly done in all the places. You may also notice, too, that Spider-Man does have some light added to it, so like lighter contrast. So there's a little bit of a brushing of a lighter blue. It's so subtly added in there, too, you almost don't even notice that it's there. Spidey symbol on the back looks good, too. Maybe they could have added just an extra coat of paint, because it does look like a little bit of the blue is bleeding through, but yeah, all in all, it's a nice-looking statue. Again, when picking this one up, you could either have gone into the stores. Some comic book stores have now started to stock these as well. I'd ordered this from Toys R Us. and the price was around, I think it was like $65. So it's a little bit more, but if you are one that collects like the PVC statues, whether it be the stuff that McFarlane's putting out or other companies, on average, statues of this size would set you back, I would say probably like anywhere from $50 to $60. So I think it's a competitive price that they've also put and charged these things at. They have released a couple of Spider-Man. They have released a Wolverine. I'd love to get my hands on that Wolverine. But the one that also, actually that does remind me, that is one thing I was thinking about too. Remember when we were looking at the issues and I went back to X-Men. I think in fact it's actually this Wolverine right here that's posed. Not necessarily though with Cyclops behind him, but most definitely, though, that was the Wolverine statue. So I'd like to get my hands on that. I'm sure they probably also have done an Iron Man. These are all, again, teases, I'm sure, of what we've also got from the other Spider-Man and the other statues from McFarlane Toys. The statue looks good. I mean, again, like I think it's one of the better Spider-Man. Of the ones that they've done so far, this was the one I wanted to get right away because it was one of my favorite poses for Spidey. You'd have to kind of probably get it more on an angled pose like this. I'm sure if you wanted to, you could twist the base around. But if you want to line everything up so it still fits within the contours of the cardboard background, you probably would more likely want to twist the statue just a little bit and twist the background as well with it. The only thing I would also say too, while it was nice that they included issue 301 as a card, I wish though that they could have also included the exact same for the comic. Sure, it's there by cover suggestion alone, but the fact that we actually get the full issue being issue 302, I feel like it's a bit disappointing. I mean, not that I necessarily want to store this away with the rest of my comics. I mean, like, I already collect a lot of the McFarlane comics as it is, but it just, you know, for the fact that it's the source material and it's based on this issue specifically, well, not this issue, this issue here, I would like that we could have got a full issue instead of just the tease by the cover alone. Just doing a little checking online, and sure enough, that issue of Spider-Man on the back of 302, issue 6, yeah, that's also been released as a statue. So it seems that all those back images that they used are in fact teases for statues that they either are planning to release or have already released. Speaking at least of the statues that have been released, price ranges are going from $44, $45 all the way up to $65. Some of the larger ones, for example, like the Incredible Hulk, go more for that $60 price range. Some of the Spider-Mans, for example, I think now that I think about it, this Spider-Man I probably picked up for around $45. Toys R Us had a sale. Walmart has a sale going on right now as well for their Black Friday. Black Friday is never just a single day anymore. All online sites, and even stores for that matter, seem to have Black Friday being a thing that happens all month long. So if you're lucky enough, maybe while you're doing some shopping for other members of your family, friends, for example, you may also want to be picking up some of these statues for yourself. Does the statue of Spidey look good? It sure does. One thing that's cool about it, though, is that you don't have to commit to the idea of always using the cardboard background. Space may vary depending on people's places. Your space may not have as much space as the next guy's, so you can choose for yourself if you don't want to have the cardboard back. At least the cardboard backing finishes the look of Spider-Man, so he's not just floating in space. Is it a secure statue? I think for the most part it will be. The only thing that could potentially go wrong on the Spidey statue is not probably the part that's connecting into his back, but actually the part that connects to the base. As a nice little side touch, though, I like that they included the Amazing Spider-Man logo at the front of it. What do you guys think of this? Let me know down below in the comments section. Have you at all collected any of the McFarlane toys? Marvel, I don't want to say just Spider-Man because they've done a whole bunch of Marvel statues as well, but have you collected any of them? Let me know down below. If in the meantime you guys did enjoy this video, do it a solid, throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? I hope so. Hit that subscribe, turn on that bell, but the most important thing is that you're coming back. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.